chances are that if you're working a standard job, your typical week to week, year to year just looks like this, right? Your years at your job and your time spent at work doesn't ever change. You're going to be here for probably 40 hours a week. Now, I hear you. I used to also, work a standard job. Now, I never actually worked a full-time job. I was working part-time. But either way, I kind of understand how this goes, right? I was there 25 hours a week. This never really changed. And this is probably exactly, the situation that you might currently be in. Or if you're not currently in it, then probably the direction you're headed if you're not going to start your own business. Now, what it might look like in an Amazon business specifically, right? Because that's kind of what I talk about. That's what I know. I'm going to break down what it actually looks like. And it looks something like this, right? Generally, you might be at your place working 40 hours a week. Now, when you're starting a business, any business, Amazon's no different. You're going to be spending a lot more time at here, in the beginning, right? You need to be investing time to build a business. And if you're going to build a long-term business, this is just what you have to do. But then you implement one thing and your time drastically shrinks like that because you implemented something in there. And then maybe you're cruising again, handling tasks. And then again, you implement another thing and then you're down here. Now you're going back again. And then there's one more thing you implement and then now you're down to here. And maybe you could be running your business and you have time for other things like, I don't know, starting another business. But you don't need to be investing that much time to continue to make money because you're working less, but you're making way more because you're putting the systems in place. You build a business. And in this video, I'm just going to go over the 3 different things that really help me cut down my time because nowadays I maybe work 5 hours on my Amazon business a week. And it really just boils down to ordering items and looking over some new potential opportunities. But usually it really is just ordering items, which takes me, like I said, a couple hours a week. But in the beginning, obviously, this big chunk right here, I was doing everything. And then I implemented something that really cut down my time. And then I did it again. And then that really cut down my time. And then down here, this has just kind of happened over time. So I'm going to address every single one of these stages and show you guys what I did, how you can also do it for yourself. But before we even get into it and before you spend time watching this video, just realize that you're going to have to grind through this phase in the beginning. So fair warning, I know most people that make Amazon videos won't actually tell you that, but that simply is the case. But this is the big difference you'll see from a standard job working your 40 hours versus, something like this, which honestly isn't going to take you years to do either. I mean, you can build out a system like this within 3 to 5 months if you're consistent with it. And let's get straight into it. So the first thing you need to do to get to this stage right here is you need to implement softwares and prepping items. Now, you don't need to do, this step necessarily right away. I recommend it, but you don't have to. But softwares, this is definitely one that you want to get done right away. And the first thing you need to do is get a repricer. Okay, like the one I use is called Aura. You can use Selleramp. Those are probably the only 2 that I would recommend. But these are great, because you no longer have to go in there and reprice your items. You're going to sell your stuff quicker. You're going to sell your stuff for a higher price. And you're not spending, 10 to 60 minutes every single morning repricing. I mean, before I got a repricer, I was in there every single morning repricing my stuff myself. Now that I have the repricer, I spend no more than maybe 10 minutes a week just looking over it. So this is going to drastically decrease your time. And it took you from working, maybe your 50 hours on this business, trying to make it like a big thing, down to, cut that down by 10 hours just by adding that repricer. And a couple more softwares you can add, one is Sellerboard. Now I'm going to touch on this as we kind of progress to a later stage because this is going to be very, very important. And the other thing is 2D workflow. Now, again, this isn't like required or anything, but it definitely speeds up the prep time like a lot. It's way more user friendly. It saves me a ton of money. I mean, I'm saving thousands of dollars by using 2D workflow because they're optimized feature. Now, you do need to be sending in a decent amount of stuff for it to really make sense. So if you're under $10,000 revenue, I probably wouldn't recommend this. But later on, as you progress, these 3 softwares just drastically cut down your time. And, obviously using tools like Selleramp and Keepa to source better, that's obviously going to cut down drastic time too for your sourcing. But these are like the main softwares, especially the repricer. You need to implement this ASAP because that's going to cut down a lot of your time. And again, just make you more money. But the other thing is obviously prepping your items. Now, you're probably, if you're new, you're not going to start out with a warehouse and employees generally, but you may be using a prep center, right? If you just hate prepping and you're selling higher ticket things, then, by all means, prep center, that's obviously going to cut down a huge chunk of your time prepping items. I mean, to put things into context for you guys, when I was prepping all my own stuff, doing 6 figures in revenue a month, I was spending at the very least 3 hours every single day prepping, 3 hours every single day. So it's definitely almost like a 20 to 40 hour thing of just prep when you're at that scale. So either getting a warehouse with employees, if that makes more sense financially, or prep center is obviously going to cut down your time. So this first little phase here, we're just going to put a name on it, and we're going to just put software. That's the first thing you need to outsource to really start working a lot less in your business. But this next thing right here, as you see, it's like the biggest drop down. This was the biggest thing I implemented that seriously cut down my time spent in the business absurdly quick. And that was simply hiring a VA. Now, if you're doing OA, the first thing you're going to use a VA for is sourcing. That just makes the most sense. So figure, let's say you have a daily spend goal to hit $2,000, or let's just say $1,000 every single day to spend on product. That way, you're spending $30K a month, and you're probably doing anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000 in revenue. I know these seem like big numbers, but it's really not when you implement these systems in place and you have access to capital through business credit. So let's just say our VA now is finding us products, and instead of spending 5 hours a day to hit that $1,000, now we can spend 2 hours a day, because our VA is finding us stuff and we're using some of their products. And obviously not all their products they send you are going to work, but sometimes if you have a really good VA, they could. But this, just having an influx of products, when I got my VA back in July of 22, like, it's just nice to always have products coming in every single month, new opportunities. And again, this is going to really reflect in the next thing that cut our time down like crazy too in the business. But just having influx of leads coming in is so crucial in cutting down your time to not only bounce ideas off of, maybe use them to source off of and just give you new brands to look into, but even just using the items to buy. Obviously, that's the main thing for having a sourcing VA. And I mean, you're only paying a VA anywhere from $300 to maybe $500 a month. And this is saving you at the very least, 10 hours a week of you having a source. So it's well worth the money. And that's why I recommend getting that really quick. Now, they can also help with outreach. If you're looking to get into wholesale, if that's another thing, they can help with outreach. That's going to cut down some time. Maybe just track down suppliers for you with some sort of script. The other thing they can help with is tracking your orders. Now, I just use a company called Seller Investigators. They're the ones that go in there and get all my reimbursements for me. So that drastically cuts down my time, because I don't have to look in there all my shipments and make sure Amazon's actually giving me my money that I'm owed. Seller Investigators does that. But again, you can also have a VA come in here and do that too. So either works. So they take 25% of what they recover, and then your VA obviously just takes their pay. So this was definitely the biggest thing in cutting down time, was getting access to a VA. And the place where you hire them at, Online Jobs PH, most of my students, after they've been with me for about 2 months and they cross that 10K, 15K mark, it's time for VA, come and help source. My one student, Brian, literally, he hated sourcing. It is what it is. Obviously, not everyone loves it, but he hated it. He got a VA. He doesn't source anymore. He just buys the products the VA sends, and his sales are going up. So as long as you have a good VA in there to help you find products, and obviously you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours sourcing. So that's crucial. So now the last thing I'm going to touch on that really cut down this last little bit of time, and this just happens over time. I mean, you don't notice it happening. There's nothing you have to actually implement. You just need to stay with the business, and it's the compounding of your products. Now, this is huge, because at the end of the day, old products are always going to resurface, right? OA products, and pretty much all OA products, are very cyclical. To give you guys an example of an item like that, I mean, let's just take a look at this coffee right here. If we look at it back during this time, there's periods where you want to be selling it and periods where you don't want to be selling it. So like up here, you're making a lot of money. You're probably like a 50 to 80% ROI. And then down here, maybe at like a 10%, 20%. Then back here again, you're profitable again. So there's phases. So like all the products that your VA is sending you, all of your old products that you sold through, maybe you sold through thousands of different items, those are all later leads. And then that's why this business gets so incredibly easy over time, is because we're simply just going back and purchasing old products. So like today is July, 14th. I can go back to February of this year and see what was my best selling products. And this is exactly where Sellerboard comes into play, because I can go back to Sellerboard and look at my best items in let's just say March. What was my best sellers? Because maybe half of those I just didn't restock because they ended up washing up a little bit. Maybe they went through one of these little phases down here where it's not the best, but then I check and now it's really profitable again. I can hop back on. I didn't have to do any new work. It's all old work that kind of resurfaces, and the compounding of your products is what makes the business literally like hands-free after a certain point. Because you can get a VA to go in there and do this for you too. You can get a VA to go in there and buy those old products for you as well, oversee everything. I mean, old products are always resurfacing, especially for the online arbitrage model. It's the biggest thing. Okay, you're gonna have endless amounts of opportunity. You're gonna have all these products to look through. I have all these products to go through. I can go back to November of 22 and click through every single one of these, or get a VA to do it. And I guarantee you there's going to be items in here that dried up but are really profitable right now, right? I can go back to May of 23, June of 23. So not only do you have your old products that you sold through, but now you have all your VA products that they've been sending you. Maybe not all of them you're purchasing at the time, but now they could be good again, or good for the first time. Maybe at the time they didn't pass your check, right? And the other thing with this is, as you obviously sell more and you can easily restock and work less, you're also able to sell these products at their best possible prices because you've kind of sold them and you know how they work. Like this one, right? Maybe you're making money up here, and then as it drops here, maybe you break even on a couple. So you made money on 80% of your inventory, the 20% you just washed and broke even on, and then you can come back on and sell it up here and make all your money again, and go ahead and cash out on these types of listings. And this happens literally all the time with OA listings. This is the biggest factor as to why this business is so hands-off and so easy once you've been doing it for a long time. Now, don't get me wrong. I say it's so easy because, yeah, it's incredibly easy for me right now. Like at this stage, this is just so easy. You're just milking your old products, and you have the systems in place to literally just, all you got to do is swipe your card and buy inventory and get your stuff prepped with a prep center or warehouse, whatever you decide to do. But this part is definitely not easy, okay? And it might look really easy on the outside because, I mean, yeah, this business is extremely simple. We're just reselling brand name things. I don't have to do anything else other than find these items. It is very simple. But finding products, knowing how to source, knowing how to use the softwares, knowing how to set up your repricer, knowing what repricer to use, knowing how to hire a VA, like all those little nuanced things that go into making this business work is why a lot of people quit and don't make it work. But at the end of the day, if you can get through this phase 1, and then you get through this phase 2 and you have a VA on board, and at this point you have your proof of concept, and you're just spending money on profitable inventory, within 4 to 8 months, you're at this stage. And at that point, it's just like, okay, you've been doing this business for a year. Everything's on autopilot now. Everything is just recycling, and OA is just printing you money, and you can focus on other things. Like, at this point, I make videos like this all the time. You think I'd have time for this in the beginning? No, I was literally working 8 hours a day prepping and sourcing products in this early stage. But luckily, I went through this little phase here. Now I'm down here, and I can run this business very smooth and consistently profit 5 figures while working less. This is something that you'll never experience in a standard job, unless maybe you're doing some kind of sales or insurance or life insurance, whatever the case may be. Maybe that's the only time you can experience something like this with a regular job. But if you're working a standard 9 to 5, this is just not in your reality. So I think it's a great idea to, if you have the time or the capital to start something like this or any business, this is what you can expect. And specifically for online arbitrage and Amazon, this is kind of what you're going to look at. And this is a very realistic representation of how that can actually play itself out. As always, I love making these kind of videos to kind of draw light to what it's actually like to sell on Amazon, because most videos, when you search online arbitrage, they're not going to kind of walk you through this process. Now, if you want more videos just like this, I have videos on how to find products, how to reprice your products, how to hire VAs, how to do everything you need to do for your Amazon business, littered across my YouTube page. So make sure you check those out if you are trying to get into this. I also post daily videos on my Instagram, videos just like this to help you guys get started selling on Amazon. So make sure you follow me. I'm going to link that down below. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys would like to see next. I'd love to drop some more videos just like this. And that's it for this one. I'll see you guys next week. Ciao.